In the quiet Tennessee countryside of the early 1800s, a family was thrust into a nightmare so terrifying it would become one of the most famous hauntings in American history. Voices in the dark, violent attacks, and eerie warnings. This is the story of the Bell Witch, a sinister entity that brought a family to the brink. But was it all real, or is there more to the story? In the rolling hills of northern Tennessee, where mist clings to the valleys like spectral fingers, the Bell family carved out their peaceful existence in the early 1800s. John Bell, a man whose weathered hands spoke of honest labor, had built a prosperous farm through years of dedication. His wife Lucy, known throughout Robertson County for her gentle spirit and unwavering faith, stood beside him as they raised their children in what seemed to be God's own country. The Bell farm was a picture of pastoral tranquility. Fields of corn swayed in summer breezes, while cattle grazed contentedly in verdant pastures. Their home, though modest, stood proud against the wilderness backdrop, its wooden walls offering shelter from both the elements and the isolation that marked life in this remote corner of Tennessee. The children's laughter echoed across the property as they helped with daily chores or played in the nearby woods, their innocence reflecting the simple pleasures of rural life. In those days, superstition walked hand in hand with Christian faith throughout the region. Neighbors relied heavily upon one another, sharing not only tools and labor, but also their deepest fears and most closely held beliefs. Stories of spirits and unexplained phenomena were whispered around flickering hearth fires, though few truly expected to encounter such things themselves. The year 1817 brought an autumn that seemed much like any other, until John Bell's fateful encounter in his cornfield one late afternoon. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the ripening crops, when movement caught his eye. There, among the stalks, stood a creature that defied explanation. Its body resembled that of a dog, but perched atop its shoulders was the head of a rabbit, its eyes gleaming with an intelligence that sent chills down John's spine. When he blinked, the apparition vanished, leaving him to question his own senses. In the weeks that followed, strange occurrences began to plague the Bell household. At first, it was merely the sound of rats scratching within the walls, though no trace of rodents could be found. Then came the knocking. Soft at first, like hesitant knuckles against wood, but growing bolder with each passing night. The children would wake to whispers that seemed to emanate from empty corners of their rooms. Voices speaking words that hung just beyond comprehension. Lucy Bell began finding her carefully arranged kitchen items in disarray each morning, though she was certain of leaving everything in its proper place the night before. The family's younger daughter claimed to feel something tugging at her bedsheets in the dark hours before dawn, while their sons spoke of footsteps following them through empty hallways. When concerned neighbors inquired about the dark circles forming under the Bell's eyes, they dismissed the family's troubles as nothing more than wild animals seeking shelter, or the natural settling of a home exposed to Tennessee's temperamental weather. After all, such logical explanations were far more comforting than contemplating what else might be stirring in the shadows of the Bell farm. As fall descended upon Robertson County, the mysterious presence in the Bell home grew bold and malicious. No longer content with mere noises and whispers, it began to assert its power with frightening displays that left the family sleepless and terrified. Chairs scraped across wooden floors with no hands to guide them. Dishes flew from shelves, shattering against walls. In the dead of night, haunting melodies filled the house as an unseen choir sang hymns with voices that seemed to come from every corner at once. The entity took particular interest in young Betsy Bell, whose screams would pierce the darkness as invisible hands pulled her hair and left angry welts across her skin. Her father John suffered equally cruel attention. finding himself subjected to vicious attacks that left inexplicable bruises blooming across his body. Lucy would often discover her husband in his study, trembling and muttering prayers after particularly savage encounters with their supernatural tormentor. During one particularly harrowing night, as the family huddled together in their common room seeking safety in numbers, a voice unlike any they had heard before filled the air. It was neither masculine nor feminine, carrying an otherworldly quality that made their blood run cold. "I am the Bell Witch," it proclaimed, its words dripping with malice. "Kate Batts remembers what you stole, John Bell, and I am her vengeance." The spirit's accusation of a land dispute bewildered the family, but they soon learned that its knowledge extended far beyond local property matters. It demonstrated an uncanny intelligence, engaging in complex theological debates with visiting ministers and reciting scripture with perfect accuracy, though often twisting the holy words into mocking blasphemies. The witch would predict visitors hours before they arrived, describing their clothing and even revealing their secret thoughts. Its laughter would echo through the house whenever someone attempted to deny its power or question its existence. Word of the Bell Witch spread through Tennessee like wildfire, drawing curiosity seekers from across the state. The entity seemed to enjoy the attention, putting on spectacular displays for visitors brave enough to spend a night at the farm. One prominent minister witnessed his Bible float through the air before being hurled into the fireplace. A skeptical doctor felt invisible hands grab his collar and throw him from his chair when he suggested the haunting was merely a hoax. The witch's reputation eventually reached the ears of General Andrew Jackson, whose military exploits had already made him a legendary figure in Tennessee. Never one to shy away from a challenge, Jackson announced his intention to investigate the Bell farm personally. He arrived with a group full of men and supplies, determined to spend several nights studying the phenomenon. On their first evening at the farm, Jackson's men watched in horror as their wagon wheels seemed to take on a life of their own, refusing to turn despite the horses straining at full strength. The witch's voice rang out across the property, taunting the famous general and his companions. Throughout the night, the entity tormented Jackson's party with physical assaults, stealing their blankets, pulling their hair, and slapping their faces with terrifying force. The following morning, Jackson's wagon departed with considerable haste. The man who would later become president was heard to remark, "I would rather face the entire British army than spend another night with the Bell Witch." His hasty retreat only served to enhance the witch's fearsome reputation, drawing even more visitors to witness its terrible power. The entity's interactions grew increasingly complex and sinister. It would spend hours conversing with family members and guests, displaying knowledge of distant events and intimate secrets that no mortal could possibly possess. The witch seemed to take particular delight in revealing the private sins of visiting skeptics, causing more than one proud man to flee the property in shame. Some nights, the spirit would alternate between sweetly singing psalms and unleashing torrents of profane abuse. It would quote lengthy passages from scripture only to twist them into dark proclamations of doom for the Bell family. The witch appeared to possess not just supernatural power, but also an intimate understanding of human nature that allowed it to target each victim's deepest fears and vulnerabilities. As autumn turned to winter, the Bell family found themselves prisoners in their own home, never knowing when or where the witch would strike next. Their once peaceful farm had become a theater for an otherworldly force whose true motives remained as mysterious as its origins. The community watched in horrified fascination as one of their most respected families endured torments that seemed to have no end in sight, wondering who among them might be next to experience the witch's wrath. As winter's grip tightened on the Bell farm, John Bell began to show signs of an affliction that no doctor could explain. His once steady hands developed an uncontrollable shake, and his strong farmer's legs grew weak beneath him. The proud patriarch of the Bell family found himself stumbling over simple words, his speech becoming slurred and uncertain. Most disturbing of all, he would sometimes freeze in place, his eyes wide with terror as if witnessing horrors invisible to others. The witch seemed to draw perverse pleasure from John's deteriorating condition. When he struggled to speak during family prayers, the entity would mock him with perfect imitations of his garbled words. As he lay in bed at night, unable to find rest, the spirit would whisper terrible prophecies of his approaching doom. "Watch him waste away." It would taunt Lucy and the children. "Watch as I steal every breath until the last." Local physicians came and went, each as bewildered as the last by John's mysterious symptoms. Every attempted treatment seemed to amuse the witch, who would overturn medicine bottles and scatter powders across the floor while cackling with glee. The entity began describing in graphic detail how it was slowly poisoning John's body and soul. Though no one could determine how such a thing might be possible, one cold morning, Lucy found her husband unresponsive in his bed, his skin pale and his breathing shallow. As the family gathered around him in panic, John Jr. discovered a small vial filled with an unknown dark liquid on his father's bedside table. The witch's voice filled the room with triumphant malice, declaring, "I gave him a taste of my bottle last night, and that was his final dose." The family watched in horror as John Jr. attempted to feed a small amount of the mysterious liquid to the family cat. The animal convulsed violently before falling dead within minutes. The witch's laughter echoed through the house as it proudly claimed responsibility for concocting the poison, proclaiming that John Bell's death would serve as punishment for his earthly sins. News of John Bell's poisoning spread through the community like a wildfire in drought. Locals who had once dismissed tales of the haunting as mere superstition now barred their doors at night and whispered prayers for protection. The witch had proven itself not just a supernatural terror, but a murderous force capable of reaching from beyond the veil to claim mortal lives. As John Bell's life ebbed away, the entity turned its cruel attention to young Betsy with renewed vigor. The girl's impending marriage to Joshua Gardner became the witch's new obsession. Night after night, it would materialize in Betsy's room, describing in vivid detail the horrific fates that awaited her and Joshua if they proceeded with their plans. The witch's campaign against the young couple grew increasingly violent. During their courtship visits, Joshua would find himself thrown from his chair by invisible hands. Betsy would feel burning sensations on her skin whenever she and Joshua touched. The entity would follow them on their walks, whispering vile accusations and threatening prophecies that only they could hear. The constant psychological torture began to wear away at Betsy's resolve. She grew pale and withdrawn, jumping at every shadow and sound. The once vivacious young woman who had dreamed of a future with Joshua now spent her days in terror of the witch's next torment. Even Joshua's steadfast devotion began to waver under the relentless supernatural assault. Finally, on a gray morning that matched her mood, Betsy summoned her remaining strength and ended her engagement to Joshua. As she spoke the words that broke both their hearts, the witch's satisfied sighs filled the air around them like a cold wind. The spirit had claimed another victory over the Bell family, proving that it could destroy not only lives, but also love itself. As generations passed, whispers about the Bell witch haunting took on new forms. In parlors and universities alike, skeptical minds began to unravel the threads of the legend, searching for rational explanations behind the supernatural terror that had gripped the Bell farm. Some locals suggested that the family themselves had orchestrated the entire affair. They pointed to the steady stream of visitors who came to witness the phenomena, hinting at possible financial motivations behind the haunting. Others wondered if neighbors might have played elaborate pranks that spiraled beyond their original intentions, creating a legend that grew larger than any single trickster could have imagined. Scientists investigating the area discovered underground caves beneath the Bell property, leading to theories about natural gas seepage affecting the family's mental state. The mysterious vapors, they suggested, could have induced shared hallucinations, explaining the consistent yet impossible experiences reported by countless witnesses. The region's isolation and deeply rooted superstitions might have transformed these natural phenomena into something far more sinister in the minds of God-fearing folk. Modern psychological research has cast new light on young Betsy Bell's role in the haunting. Some experts suggest that she might have possessed unconscious psychokinetic abilities triggered by emotional distress. They point to similar cases where adolescents under extreme stress seemingly manifested strange activity without any awareness of their involvement. Darker theories emerged about the Bell household itself. Investigators studying historical documents began to uncover hints of family tensions that never made it into the official narrative. They wondered if the witch's fixation on John Bell might have stemmed from hidden crimes or abuses, with the supernatural activities serving as a physical manifestation of buried trauma and unspoken family secrets. Yet for every skeptical explanation, supporters of the Bell witch legend offer compelling counter-arguments. They note the hundreds of eyewitness accounts, including testimony from prominent figures like Andrew Jackson, whose reputation stood to lose more than gain from supporting such an unconventional tale. The witch's displays of intelligence and physical power were documented by clergy, doctors, and other educated individuals who had every reason to doubt supernatural explanations. The consistency of the reports proves particularly difficult to dismiss. Visitors to the Bell farm who had no prior knowledge of the haunting described identical phenomena, from the witch's distinct voice to its encyclopedic knowledge of scripture and local secrets. The entity's ability to interact with multiple people simultaneously, often in different parts of the house, challenges simple explanations of mass hysteria or collective delusion. Perhaps most compelling is the enduring mystery of John Bell's death and the discovered poison, a physical piece of evidence that bridges the gap between supernatural legend and documented history. The true nature of the Bell witch haunting remains suspended between fact and fiction, floating like a ghost story that refuses to be laid to rest. Today, deep in the Tennessee countryside, the Bell Witch Cave stands as a silent witness to the haunting that forever changed a community. The limestone cavern, once part of the Bell family property, continues to draw those seeking answers to the centuries-old mystery. Visitors report sudden temperature drops that defy explanation, mysterious whispers echoing through the rocky chambers, and the sensation of unseen hands brushing against their skin. Park rangers and tour guides collect new stories each season. Cameras malfunction inexplicably within the cave's depths. Electronic equipment dies without warning, only to spring back to life once removed from the cavern. Some visitors claim to capture otherworldly voices in their recordings, while others describe orbs of light floating through their photographs. Local residents speak of a feminine figure in period dress seen wandering the surrounding woods at twilight. They tell of strange sounds carrying across the fields on quiet nights, sounds that some swear resemble the singing of old hymns. The witch, it seems, has never truly left her haunting grounds. The Bell Witch story has woven itself deeply into American supernatural lore. Hollywood has attempted to capture the tale's essence in various films, though locals insist no screenplay has ever done justice to the true horror of the events. Authors and paranormal researchers return generation after generation, each adding their own chapter to the ever-growing legend. The haunting has become more than just a ghost story. It serves as a lens through which we examine our relationship with the supernatural, our understanding of family dynamics, and our ability to confront the unexplainable. Academics study it as a reflection of early American social tensions, while paranormal investigators consider it a benchmark against which other hauntings are compared. From dimly lit campfires to university lecture halls, the Bell Witch narrative continues to captivate audiences. It persists not merely as a tale of supernatural terror, but as a mystery that challenges our assumptions about reality itself. The story resonates because it forces us to question what we believe possible, what we consider real, and what mysteries might still lurk in the shadows of our rational world. In the end, the Bell Witch haunting stands as a dark reminder that some questions may never find satisfying answers. The terror that descended upon one family's farm nearly 2 centuries ago continues to echo through time, leaving us to wonder what forces might still linger in those Tennessee hills, waiting for the right moment to make themselves known once again.